Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Blacksmith Fans with me, Robert.
With me, Pete.
Man like Mo, all day, every day. What you know about that? Yeah, man's out here. Yeah, the furnace out here, full furnace out here. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, Peter might not be able to talk too much because his throat has been through some things lately.
That leaves a lot to the imagination, boy. That leaves a lot to the imagination.
I don't even know what to say.
Man, like the throat goat.
Oh, dear Lord. My tonsillitis, please. Tonsillitis, that's all.
But what causes tonsillitis, Peter?
Sorry?
What are you doing to aggravate your tonsils? That's the real question.
I don't know. I don't know how people get tonsillitis. All I know is I have tonsillitis.
I feel like Robert's been waiting to get these.
I know, right?
No.
I thought there was some compassion there. Nothing. It's unnecessary nonsense.
Bro, why would you think? Why would you think compassion when you told us his response be that must have been hard to swallow?
And I was actually still in pain at the time. Yeah.
But we is here today.
Come on, we kings.
All right, should we get into it?
Let's.
I think Moses is in the hot seat this week.
Yeah.
So, I've got a quick question.
Yes.
How do you guys feel about another quick react thing, but just Moses?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Let's do this. This.
I should have lined this up better.
Do you want to ask my question first whilst you get that ready?
No, because I'm super slick with it and I'm already ready. As always.
2,
Come on.
3.
What do you mean? Why are you counting?
Because we're here just back waiting for you and nothing's happening. I want to see how your seconds will take before something happens.
Yo, relax with that, man. Cool. Can you guys see? Oh, that's too much.
Hey, everybody's favorite pastor.
I feel like that's too much, isn't it? That's too much.
Can't you just make the video full screen? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you guys still use Twitter?
This was on Twitter, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think I shared it. It was on Twitter, and I still use Twitter. Yeah, I've moved away from Instagram. I've reactivated my thing because I was applying for stuff, but yeah. I may deactivate Twitter because Twitter is reckless.
So I've got a twofold question. First one is I want to hear your reaction to this, which is something you shared in our WhatsApp group over the week. I want to hear your reaction, and then following your reaction, I may or may not have a second follow-up question. So
okay.
And it was bread to them. We don't make it rain on booty cheeks. We don't make it rain on strippers. We only reverence one stripper, and that's the one that took off glory to put on humanity and then get butt naked on a cross to die for both you and me. The only stripper I'm in love with is Jesus. And he's the one that puts that bread in my pocket. That bread in my pocket from heaven.
all right.
That was beautiful.
Well, your thoughts, please.
I do really vibe with the statement you made in that it's being provocative. But the question is, to what end?
Question.
I feel like, yeah.
do you think that they are purposely being provocative, or do you think that they're just, or they feel like they're just going outside the box with their analogies and their demonstrations?
And this is what I was gonna say. With analogies, with communication in general, there is a difference between having a conversation and communicating en masse. Like, with me having a conversation with you two, let's like, when it's the full furnace, the conversation, in as much as it's the exact same people, the conversation flows slightly differently than if it's Smash Brothers, Heavy Hitters, or the Rock and Rock, like however, like with whatever group of people kind of come together, the conversation flows slightly differently. There are things that kind of are teased out, and things that we kind of bounce off of in conversation, that if I was preaching, even though you two may be in a congregation, it still will not be appropriate to address everyone in the same way. Just by virtue of relationship and conversation and just how personal the conversation is. I wouldn't find much issue with that in a conversation, because it's a lot more relational. It's a conversation. It's dialogue, and so people can either like chip in. But when you're speaking en masse like that, and speaking about strippers and like making it rain and this and that, you, for the most part, are not aware of everyone's context, are not aware of how everyone is going to take that. You're trying to be provocative, but at the expense of harming someone's faith. Especially with that analogy. What if someone had porn addiction is very common even in the church. What if someone is struggling with porn, has a porn addiction, and now you're talking about making it rain on booty cheeks? Bro, your mind has gone somewhere different just off of that one reference. Like, it doesn't take much, and it's very much a case of Paul is like, yo, when you're speaking, let your words be edifying. Do not let anything distasteful kind of come out of your mouth. In a conversation, there is a lot more room to maneuver that. But in a public discourse, I feel like, not that you should rein yourself in, but you should be mindful. You should be more mindful in what you say. And so that's why I'm like, he's being provocative, but to what extent? At what expense? Because my thing is, as I said, I wouldn't find an issue with that if it was in conversation. He's got a podcast where he's talking, and most of the stuff that he's saying is along the same lines. But that's dialogue. That's dialogue. He's speaking to someone. But when you're speaking to a congregation, I feel like there's a different not requirement, but it's a different medium, different responsibility,
considerations that you need to take.
Yeah.
So I was listening to Ruslan's channel, and he had a couple guys on, and they were talking about this, and he was like, so if I you know, as I said, I'm on the same page as you are here, but if that's the case, and there is not necessarily a line drawn with this analogy, what about this example? So he's like, what if I say, oh, no matter the kind of crap I give him, he just flushes it away. All of my crap. Jesus is my favorite toilet. Is that acceptable as well? Or is it?
Yeah.
Everyone uses the toilet, so it is.
It's relatable.
It is relatable. It is relatable. But I feel like, and this is almost where reverence.
Yeah.
My mind goes to reverence.
Yeah.
Because a toilet isn't something, and in an analogy, yes, like arguably the same function, but practically a hard no is not the same function, and that's the issue with any analogy. It only works up to a certain degree. Some analogies are better than others, but you can poke holes in every analogy. Even biblical analogies, you can poke holes in it if you really want to. But my thing would really go back to reverence.
Yeah.
Like, yo, do you recognize that you're speaking about the Lord of Lords and the God of Gods and the Lord of Lords? Yeah. Do you recognize? Now it's like, yes, stripper, at least the stripper's a person, imago Dei, made in the image of God, is redeemable. Like, Jesus died for this person, this and that. But a toilet.
My thing with the stripper even was because it was also a play on words on stripping of divinity. So he being a stripper isn't the same. He's a stripper in the same sense. It's, oh no, these two words are the same, meaning very different things. He strips off his divinity to die for us. This one strips off her clothes to make it rain. You know,
make it rain on that booty cheeks.
Yeah. I think reverence is the thing there, definitely.
Yeah. And I've heard a similar song from a guy called Evangel. This is a very old song where he's like, I'm in love with a stripper. And when I first heard it, I was very new to Christianity, and I was just like, it just didn't sit right with me. I was like, I'd see what you're saying, but not too long ago, I was listening to T-Pain, Love with a Stripper. Like, too close. And later on, not saying that this was like a forecast or whatever, but Evangel went on to make a diss track against Lecrae. And I'm like, rah, are we in Christ? We're making diss tracks now, yeah? And this was after Church Clothes 1 came out. He didn't like it so much that he made a diss track against him. So I was just like, yeah, okay. There was something there. So for me, especially with the toilet one, I'm like, reverence.
Yeah.
Like, yo, respect the God you're talking about. Yeah. But I also know that reverence, different people take it to different levels. Like some, if you say, oh my God, you're using your Lord's name in vain. I'm just like, yo, chill out. Yeah. I'm using the lowercase g, not the top G. Yeah.
No, cool,
so I know that
cool.
reverence, it's reverence can be, it's a moving target based on perspective and blah blah blah. But toilet for me is crossing the line. I'm just like, I'm not on it.
Yeah, I hear that. And I'm happy with that. I think that makes sense.
Cool. My question, Moses, it's based on a verse in the Bible where Jesus is like, depart from me, I never knew you. Jesus said that. Right? So I've been thinking about that verse, right? So if you're a Christian and you live your life, you go to get judged, and Jesus said, I never knew you. Does that mean that through everything that you did whilst you were alive, all the prayers that you prayed, prayers that got answered and all of that, Jesus wasn't with you in any of that? Or if, let's say, you like strayed off the path for a bit and then you died, does that become the cutoff point for when Jesus didn't know you? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And this is different into Calvinistic theology. So I do believe in perseverance of the saints. It's not a clear cut black and white situation. Nothing faith wise is as black and white as theology will try to present it. But I do believe that has Peter frozen? No, he hasn't. No. I do believe that
taking notes.
I do believe that if you if you're truly born again, and you have the Holy Spirit dwelling in you, you have, like, your very nature has been changed. You're the stone of the man said the stone of heart. The heart of stone has been changed to a heart of flesh. And you were once dead in sin, but you've been made alive in Christ. And in as much as we're constantly tempted by sin, and you may drift back into a life of sin, but I do believe that the inner witness of the Holy Spirit will continually be there. I do know that there is a school of theology that believes that you can quench the Spirit to the point of losing your salvation. But I do hold on to the belief that my salvation isn't based on anything that I can do. It is a free gift. It is by God's grace, received by faith. And yeah, even faith is a gift, is one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit. So I say all of that, and I'm not explaining it properly, but I say all of that to say, I believe that even if you backslide and you're living in a lifestyle of sin, if God's hand is upon you, there will be some sort of redemption. I don't know how that's going to play out. And it isn't necessarily a get out clause to say, all right, cool, yeah, I'm safe, I'm just going to go live my life of sin. I do believe if you have that perspective, then that reveals an unrepentant heart to be like, I've been given God's Spirit, so now I can go live a life of sin and I'll still go to heaven. Because, like, by nature of you being given God's Spirit, your very taste buds have been changed and are being changed, and so sin won't taste the same for you anymore. There will be conviction. There will be things you don't want to do. So if you die in sin, if you were a Christian, I believe that there will be some sort of repentance or whatever, or something that God would do. But in terms of the statement of "I never knew you," I believe that speaks more directly to those who who had an outward appearance of faith without the inward conviction of who Jesus is. So without that relational element. And so that's why Jesus said, in the passage, Jesus was like, they will say to me, didn't we cast out spirits? Didn't we prophesy? Didn't we do all of these things? And I will say to you, depart from me, I never knew you. You did the works that I called my children to do, but you weren't actually in fellowship with me. To be known by God is to have communion with him, is to be indwelt by his Spirit. And this also shows how God will be willing to move on behalf of his people, even through unbelievers. He is willing to turn up and to show himself strong, even through the lips of unbelievers. We have seen him show up even through a donkey. But you don't want to be that donkey. Mm-hmm. Just because God can use a donkey doesn't mean go make yourself a donkey. No, he's made you in his image. And for me, that's a scary position to be in, because it's like, yo, you can prophesy, you can like preach, you can worship, you can do all of these things, but these external displays does not guarantee or even reveal an internal conviction. It shows more of God's willingness to reach people rather than your submission to him. And that's the very tense line. There was a time when I was in uni, man like Ayo, if he's listening, shout out man like Ayo. We had seen this this clip of a preacher who, can you hear me? Yes. My AirPods just connected to my thing, but there was this preacher who was running crusades and blah blah blah, and people were coming, they were being healed, doing all of these things, and he was like, that video was of him being exposed as a fraud. So he was telling about how he would go on primetime radio at like in the afternoon, where he knows that a lot of old women will be listening to it, and then he'll be like, in the middle of the interview, he'll be like, "Oh, I'm getting a message from God. There's an old lady who's really trusting in God to come through for her situation. God is saying that you have your savings in a money jar on top of your fridge. Invest that savings into this ministry and you'll see him come through for you." And he's like, by virtue of him being on prime time, he knows that there is at least like 100 old women who have money in their jars on top of their fridge. So all of them are going to be thinking, "Oh, God's speaking to me."
All those that will think, "Oh, money in your jar on top of your fridge" is a parable for the money in the jar.
Yes. And then it cut to a crusade that he was doing. Worship was popping. People were being healed. And then it just cuts to this guy in his room counting money, singing worship songs. And he's like, "This is all I'm after." And Ayo was like, "Yo, like, are these people actually being healed?" And I was like, I do believe that they are, because I believe that God will honor the faith of his people, even if the leader is faithless. And that's what I kind of see him at play in that passage. Whereas like God will honor the faith of the people, even if the leaders are faithless. Sons of Sceva, they were casting out demons until they met that demon that beat them up. So they had some success. They got gassed. 2-2, they got thumped up by a demon. So it's like, yeah, for me, it's very much.
We know of that.
But who are you? Bro, imagine that. You're trying to cast out a demon and the demon's like, "Who are you?" Also, no wine. It's like, so yeah, my thing is, because of that, I am less and less moved by external manifestations of quote unquote the spirit, and more moved by like a witness of sanctification, a life dedicated to God, this and that, which is seen over a longer period of time. Because yeah, even in Ghana, there were pastors who would go get some juju and then have it on the pulpit, and then they'll be preaching and they'll be like, miracles and signs. So just because you see man busting miracles and signs don't mean that it's from God. Pharaoh's magicians did the same things. So yeah, for me, that's the context is more so outward appearance as opposed to inward conviction for that passage. So yeah, if your conviction is there, even if you died backslidden, that conviction is still there. But you could be doing all the manifestations of the spirit and die and still be like, "Yo, I never knew you."
I never knew who you were. Did you know me? No, you didn't. Ooh. Cool. I'm happy with that. All right. Topic for today. Don't really have a topic, so I'm just gonna flow and see where it takes us. I did see something this week that I thought was interesting. So we all know about Gen Z, right? Apparently, Gen A is coming up next.
So they just start looping back to the top, yeah.
Yeah, Gen Alpha. So it says anyone born between 2010 and 2024. That's Gen A, Gen Alpha, baby. And it said that they are the first generation born into a fully digital world. It's crazy to think about. And every time, like when I was in my old church, I'd just be seeing these kids just be swiping on the phones, knowing how to unlock it, knowing how to go to YouTube, all of this stuff. The same skills that we learned when phones were coming out in like around uni times. They're learning at 2-3 years old.
I've been around uni time.
No, and what I mean is that the technology only came out around that time. Do you know what I mean? So like the first proper smartphones. No, but the first proper smartphones came out around uni.
No.
Nah. Okay, do you know what? I feel like
Yeah.
in its
Because-
current iteration, with the
like
current spec,
like proper smartphones like this came out around uni, because it was Blackberries in uni.
But Blackberries were smartphones.
No, but it's not a smartphone like this though. Like I'm talking like full screen smartphone.
Okay. I get what you mean in this sort of
is
iteration,
relatively
because
new. Yeah.
you have your sort of your PDAs and your mobile computers that were also a thing. You know,
Yes.
like the Palm Pre's and
Yes.
Simon. I think IBM
Yeah.
had a version, so those ones, but those weren't like strictly phones. They were like PDAs and like.
Hence why I said smartphones.
Okay.
Fam.
All right. Cool. Carry on.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks. So the same way we were in our
You're lucky
early
to
to
be doing
mid.
that at safe distance.
No, because I'm right, and the righteous will be protected. Can I get him in? Anyway, these kids are learning to do a 2 or 3 what we were learning in our 20s, because the technology was not there for us to learn about it before that. You happy with that, Peter?
It's not entirely true. This is the problem. It's not true. No,
How's it not true?
because like a lot of the stuff that the smartphones allow us to do, we were doing. Like I was doing not in my 20s. I was doing it in Ghana.
What are you talking about?
I was doing it in like 16, 17. You know, we didn't have access to.
But using your phone to go on YouTube in Ghana.
Kind of. It was very, very slow. But yeah, it wasn't YouTube. No, it wasn't YouTube. But it was super slow. CDMA stuff. Yeah.
No, I said YouTube.
That's not
Peter, ask the question I'm asking. You know,
YouTube didn't exist.
man's going
so
all
no.
around. Man's going all around the block. When the question is what the question is.
YouTube didn't exist, so no.
Bruv, this guy will do anything he can not to ask the question that's been
I
asked.
said no.
No, you didn't.
I
You
said
didn't.
no. I said YouTube didn't exist, so no.
Okay. Anyway, so the new generation's coming up.
Yeah.
They're born with technology in their hands. AI is on the come up. Technology is being more and more integrated into the world at a rate that is maybe a bit too fast for us to keep up with. At this point, the aliens, the robots will probably take over us in the next 30, 40 years, the way things are going. So yeah, how do we keep our faith in a world where technology seems to be able to do so much more with every passing day?
I mean, technology is writing sermons right now, boy.
Yeah, and winning art
And
competitions.
prayers. Yeah.
I think I saw in America they've opened a fully automated McDonald's. So there's no staff, it's just machines.
That's
I think-
interesting.
I think
Wait, hold on. Who are you gonna complain to if a machine gets your order wrong?
I think that's what
yeah.
Elysium.
Elysium is yes with is it Matt Damon? Yeah.
So there was that exact same situation where Matt Damon was trying to explain to an AI, a machine, that he did something wrong, or he did an offense, but he had like a very, very good explanation for the offense. But obviously the machine's not coded to make any considerations other than you did A, therefore B. And it's kind of sad to see. It's like, I said no ketchup. It's like, do you want to make a new order, or do you want to... but I think we're still in the early days. What we have isn't really AI. It's not really creating something new. It's doing very advanced pattern recognition and very advanced word assembly, but it's not really. It's not as Skynet as media makes it sound, if that makes sense.
I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah, but it has no.
I tried to go to chat GBT to ask for a topic for today, and It wasn't
Can
working
you
too
not,
well.
please?
I don't know how to like because it's actually like it's like producing art.
Yeah,
It's
but
like,
all it's doing is taking existing art and sort of recognizing the patterns and then pushing them together, which you could argue is what we
which is
do.
what art is.
Yes, but then with when an artist does it, they infuse something new. All this is doing is just making a new permutation of what
But
exists.
is it producing something new or is it producing something based on the artist's experience in life?
No, because for instance, you're saying if a prompt would be make a Picasso styled picture of Leicester Square, right? And it's looking, okay, Picasso is looking Leicester Square, and then it's looking at I mean, again, we're talking ridiculously large amount of data, but it's looking at Picasso. Okay, this is how Picasso does his things. Leicester Square, okay, this is what Leicester Square looks like. This is what Leicester Square would look like if I use this particular way of drawing that Picasso does, and then spits it out at you. Now it's happening fairly fast, and it's doing it over a super large amount of data, which again, both of those things are not necessarily things that we'd be able to do, but it's not necessarily creating something new. It's
But
not
then,
AI in the way that we're saying AI.
but how would that be different if you told the human to create Leicester Square in the Picasso style? Because you're still
Yeah.
using the Picasso style and you're still using Leicester Square.
Yeah. But then the difference with a human being is the imperfection, is it not being truly Picasso style because you've been exposed to however many. I mean, you could expose yourself to all of Picasso style. Fine. In your doing it, your muscle, your sinew, you are infusing an aspect of you in as much as you're trying to produce an impression of someone else, and that in and of itself creates a uniqueness that then means your Picasso style will be different from my Picasso style, because we're both doing impressions of something, but then are doing an impression same way you look at an impression of Jay Farrow doing an impression of someone versus, I don't know, some other impressionist doing an impression of someone. It ends up being, there's still an element of uniqueness because that individual becomes the vessel through which that's coming. But all this is doing is removing that, and arguably, and that's what is impressive about it. I'm not trying to trivialize it, but it is just taking what already exists. It's not. It's nothing new. The other problem is it has no relationship with the truth. Like I asked ChatGPT to, I think I asked it to suggest best courses for prompt engineering. It came up with URLs. Like it came up with it. Like it literally came up with URLs. Like, oh, AI for this at this.com. And I was like, that URL doesn't exist. It's a 404. And it's like, oh, I'm not. It gives. It's been, obviously they've built in some apologies. I was like, to apologize is to is to imply regret. Do you feel regret? And it's like, I'm programmed to do this. I was like, yeah, but it's fairly primitive. It's the point I'm making. It's fairly primitive. It's not as advanced as we think it is. And I think the other thing is, sorry, I'm hogging the stage, but the other thing is, we have always moved. Technology has always been, since the time they wrote it, in advancement, and thus I don't think it's really any different now than it was, in the early church,
Yeah.
or it was when Bibles first got translated, or it was when Bibles first got digitized. It's always been a forward trajectory, and the beauty of the Christian faith is we are working towards perfection. Not, I don't say in the past, but we're working towards a perfect point that remains still. If that means, it remains perfect, whereas everything else is threatened by progress because progress might reveal you were wrong. One guy wins a Nobel Prize for proving one point, and his son wins a Nobel Prize for disproving him. I forget who it is, but science is always trying to find something
I slap
new.
my child. I slap my son.
what faith is saying is the original, the perfect one, has already been set. Or if you're going to say, well, Eden was the perfect point, fine, that was set. We're trying to go back to that. Arguably, we're trying to go better than that. But we are heading towards a predefined point. That's not going to change, if that makes sense. And so I think the faith shouldn't be threatened. If your faith ends up being threatened, then maybe you need to work on your doctrine. But I don't think we're any threat.
I do like the point that Peter made, in that with every step in advancement, there have been traditionalists who have been like, no, we shouldn't move from here. This is it. And there have been some who have embraced the move of technology, and there's been iterations of everything. When we look at creativity, we've gone from drawings on a wall in caves to 4K high definition films on a movie screen. Like, there's been that whole trajectory, and at every stage, I'm sure that there has been pushback. When people were painting and photography came, there was pushback. And then as photography is like advanced, there's been pushback. There's been pushback from theater to film. Yep, there's been pushback at every stage. But those who were able to go along with the advancements have been able to stay ahead of the curve. Let's look at Netflix and Blockbuster. Like, prime example within our lifespan. Even if we look at something like Woolworths and Amazon, like, Woolworths used to be the spot back in the day, and again, Blockbuster used to be the spot back in the day. Now both of them are gone because they weren't able to kind of keep up with the trajectory of technology. Now, I don't particularly feel like the church is going to die out because it's not keeping up with the trajectory of technology, because the church is a massive thing. And there are pockets that are kind of keeping up and blah, 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 this and that. Unfortunately, some churches who weren't able to transition to Zoom, for example, during lockdown, may not be in the exact same place and position. But in just keeping up with the trajectory of technology ensures that people remain fed spiritually, they remain connected, like, community is still there. But also, one thing that I've heard a lot in a podcast, and I really agree with it, is the future of humanity is a race to vulnerability, is a race to embrace your humanity a lot more. We can't compete with AI on brain power, on computing power, like being able to instantly analyze a mass of data and spit out information. We can't compete there. But a robot cannot compete with being human, with the mass of chemical stuff that's kind of happening. It just can't compete with that.
For now,
and even emotionally, there you could argue that there could be like an algorithm that can mimic emotions and blah blah blah. But there are things like micro expressions and just the like, bro, God made humanity. We are made in the image of God. No robot is going to be able to mimic that. Regardless of how impressive the technology may become, I do not believe that man can create something in the image of God to the standard that God has created. And so if we embrace our humanity, I don't believe that we have anything to worry about eternally from AI. We may have to worry, like on Earth, if we get like a Terminator type situation, or iRobot or them things there. But eternally, I don't believe that. And I do believe it's a race to vulnerability, in that what actually makes us human, what the mirror neurons and the connectivity and empathy, like these things kind of will remain something that I don't believe AI will be able to replicate.
How do you see yourself interacting with AI if in any way in the future?
So, fam, I'll be using ChatGPT right now, boy. I'll be using ChatGPT. Bro, I can't even lie to you. During this thing, man was on ChatGPT, because I'm starting to integrate ChatGPT into the workflow. in terms of generating content and stuff. I'm not lying to you, bro. Yeah, I'm starting to integrate ChatGPT into it. I do recognize, especially creatively, there is a real shortcut that AI provides. Now with like copyright infringements and blah blah blah, I don't need to do a Google search for a picture. I can just throw a prompt into AI and it will generate something unique for me. I enjoy creating visuals, and so I don't do that. But I do recognize that writing copy is something that I don't particularly like, so I can just farm that out. But currently, it's still an experiment to see how it kind of works, how I can integrate it and stuff. But I am dipping into ChatGPT, particularly for business purposes. But I know them who are getting ChatGPT to write their dissertations for them.
And it's such a risk because ChatGPT doesn't have any sense of, oh, I shouldn't take this from Wikipedia, or even try and provide like real sources. Like it can just create its own sources. It's kind of silly. So,
question: with dissertations, do people actually go and check the sources that you put in your bibliography?
they should.
I think they do plagiarism stuff, but I don't think, because dissertations are like 15,000 words. A thesis, like a PhD thesis, is 60,000 words. I think a master's dissertation is 15. So yeah, and you would have about 4 pages of
Bibliography.
So the average is, for every 1,000 words, at least 5 references. And so 15,000, you do the math. Yeah, so it will be give or take about 60 or something. So yeah, that's pages worth of reference. I don't think they're going to do that for every student, for every thing. They just kind of slap it through the plagiarism thing, and then they just read it. But also, if your teachers are on point, more than likely they would have come across some of these references as well, and so they will be familiar with it.
If you're producing any work that's going to be, in an official document or anything, that's going to be seen and reviewed by others. So you don't want to eventually get called out for lying,
bro.
But by then it's too late. You would have made your millions already.
Hey yo, but they banned them. Do you know what? It was peak. I did an assignment. It was only like 5,000 words. I did an assignment, and I quoted my lecturer's own work that she had published in my assignment. And the feedback I got back, I had used my lecturer's words as an agreement for what I was saying. And my lecturer was like, I was actually disagreeing with that statement in my essay. I was like, oh, flip it out.
But it can be argued. Like, no, I wrote it.
I wrote it, and I'm like, well, you didn't write it clearly enough, did you? You didn't communicate.
This is how you should have wrote it.
Have them docking points.
Yeah, what about you, Peter?
Sorry?
What about you?
I think I'm quite particular about some of these things. So even something like I think they're called rhyming dictionaries or something like that. Where you can find rhymes. You can literally look up a word, find words, wherever. I don't allow myself to use that when I'm writing poetry. Like I feel like it's cheating, and so I avoid that. So I can't use ChatGPT to generate anything of worth. I won't feel like it's me. I feel like it's I'm just, I guess, a purist like that. Where I have been using it is for like stuff like code suggestions and stuff, like, because a lot of coding is what's the best way to do this, and someone's found that out, and a lot of coding is Stack Overflow. So GPT just goes to look for Stack Overflow for me, as it were. But yeah, that's sort of just been how I think I really hesitate to like farm out anything truly creative or truly an expression of anything I want to express to AI, to sort of just an amalgamation of existing IP. I wouldn't be comfortable with presenting that as my own work. So yeah, I do use it. I'm not scared of it as some are. And it has some really good uses. It's very good at summarizing stuff, and providing summaries of, things that you actually can go and verify yourself. It's good at that. But I'm just not as impressed, I guess.
How about you, Robert?
Every now and again, I'll just have conversations with ChatGPT.
You feeling lonely?
No, I just use it as a thing to just bounce off ideas that I'm having with myself. It's like having like a soundboard that has the whole internet to play with. And so I'll put something in, and I'm like, oh, but what if I did this? And it'll do something. I'm like, okay, but then what if I do this? It's quite entertaining.
Do you know what, Gems? One night for banter, she was giving ChatGPT prompts to write poems, and then reading to see like how good the poems would be and stuff. The poems are rubbish, absolute nonsense.
For now,
yeah.
Oh, there was this post I saw on Reddit. You talk, I'll find it.
How would you guys respond to someone who asserts that this whole AI move is in tandem with the mark of the beast?
I'll say either they don't know their Bible, they don't know AI, or they're just trying to be maliciously misinforming.
Because they're like, oh yeah, because they're gonna put the chip inside of you, and that you're gonna use that chip to buy stuff, and then the chip's gonna know everything that you're thinking, and then we're gonna be part man, part Android, part iOS, and then we're just gonna integrate with everything. Soon come, you're gonna have to go to the gym and scan your eyeballs and stuff, and then they're gonna know all your information.
Did they use a phone?
I know people that cancelled gym memberships because they needed to scan their palm.
Yeah. I've It's like it's not that deep. It's not that deep.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Reddit. You're gonna say Reddit, bro?
Yeah. So
he was showing one image generator, and the same prompt, but how a year of that image generator sort of being used shows how quickly they learn.
It's really cool.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
But I was gonna ask, so with this whole Gen A thing, so we are officially becoming the old era generation. Are you? Well, you're both parents right now, so you're probably going through this right now, but probably not as much because kids are still small. But do you think you're going to find it more and more difficult to relate and talk to the younger generation in the way that maybe the older generation had trouble relating to us because we're from a different generation from them?
There's I think a hubris that makes me think, oh, because I'm aware of the mistakes my parents made, I won't make them. Someone said if history teaches us anything, it is that we do not learn from history. And so there's an awareness of that. But at the same time, I do find myself, and Mo, you probably could speak to this more because you've got older kids. But I do find myself doing that mental check, of, did my dad, who is he's 50 years older than me, did he have the same approach to this thing? Did my mom, who is 40 years older than me, have the same approach to this thing? And should I be smarter? Should I learn from that based off of my response to the same? So my mom was always like, oh, this music is demonic. these times I'm listening to Lecrae, I'm listening to Ambassador, but because she can't hear the words because they're speaking too fast, she's like, it's demonic, you know, and takes that
Only hear the
hard
808s.
stance, you know, and it's like, am I, you know, when I hear Baby Shark, am I taking that same approach to it, and do I need to be more considerate of, nah, this is just your thing? And so I think it's, for me, it's more trying to be cognizant of the fact that these things, a lot of these things aren't made for me. They're made for someone else. They're made for a younger generation. The younger generation will interact with it different, will get it different. And I think I just have to be, I think in being aware of that, I can then hopefully approach it that way. Not to say my way is better, but to say, is there anything that you can learn from these ways of doing things or these ways of thinking that you can apply to this, and hope that I'm able to make, you know, breakthrough, as it were.
Yeah, I think definitely learning from the previous generation. Definitely learning from the previous generation. Also recognizing that the human experience is the same, even if it's dressed differently. Even if it's presented differently, the human experience is still the same. We all get hungry, we all get sad, we all get lonely, we all get happy, we all struggle with like similar issues, even if it's we may be facing isolation because we were physically separated, and we didn't have a means of communication, but they're now feeling isolated. And even though there's like group chats and Snapchats and blah, 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 they're still feeling that disconnect. Like isolation still remains a human experience. And so the application of my solution may not be like immediately applicable to them within this presentation of the thing, but sometimes the lessons learned then almost provides like a foundation for them to build on. Khalil Gibran, the prophet, says with our kids, we're not trying to make them us. We're not trying to just like create clones of ourselves, but rather expend ourselves that they may go forward. And so almost using our experiences and our knowledge as a platform for them to build on. I feel like it definitely depends on the age at which your child is at. But for like my eldest, I do see my position more as an advisor, or transitioning into an advisor, where it's not so prescriptive, it's more so directional. Like, these are the options that I see. This is what you can do. I want you to trust in like how you're going to build it yourselves. But I'm here to like, and as my children, as a kid, I'm not going to say, nah, it would be a good idea not to touch the fire. No, don't touch the fire. Like, that's point blank. I'm going to be a bit more directive. But as they grow up, it transitions, the relationship transitions. And so, yeah, just allowing them to see my humanity, areas that I have like struggled with, blah, 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 this and that, and allowing them to draw lessons and inferences that may be applicable to them. And I do feel like the key part to that, and it's definitely something that I am learning from the previous generations, both their successes and their failures, is establishing a wholesome relationship where my children feel comfortable to share stuff, and where I am comfortable sharing stuff from my life, and allowing that relationship to then be almost the soil from which they can then grow and they can build and they can kind of do their stuff. Because ultimately, they're going to live their life. I'm not going to live their life for them. They're going to live it. If they make a mistake, yes, I may be there to support, but ultimately the mistake is on their head. And if they succeed, yes, I'm going to be there to enjoy with them, but ultimately that's their successes. So I do very much see it as, I am here as a parent to love you, to provide the best foundation that I can, and to support you and to provide as much information that I can. But ultimately, this is your life and I want you to live it. And so, yeah, I do feel like I am able to connect, but I'm not going to be naive and say, man ain't going to make them mistakes, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But it's definitely a case of seeing my role slightly differently from what I perceive the previous generation seeing their role as. And so, yeah, very much learning from them, while I was also leaning on God to be like, yo, how have you shaped me? How have you shaped me to lead the family that you've called me to lead and stuff like that? So yeah, I am hoping, and I mean with my eldest, it's been hard, but we're in a very good place at the moment. Very good place at the moment, and just like listening, blah blah blah, building the same with the youngest too, and just really hoping that, like, yo, we can be open about everything, as much as possible. I feel like it's that, yeah, freedom has boundaries. Freedom has boundaries. And I say that to say I'm giving them freedom, but still affording them an insight as to the boundaries around it, to hopefully kind of shape that for them. Yeah, so I am hoping that, yeah, I don't kind of fall down the same spirals that I see the previous generation doing. I say previous generation loosely because there are some parents who didn't fall into the same pitfalls as others. But my experience for the most part has been more prescriptive than directive, than advisory. So yeah.
And I think sometimes that can stem from, I think, a misuse of this idea. There's a saying in Tree that Obiaya kolada, then you'll be paying that, which means everyone's been a kid before, but not everyone's been an adult before. And I think sometimes that get misused because, where I do agree more with the idea that, the human experience can be the same. There's isolation then, there's isolation now. There's hunger then, there's hunger now. However, I think there are sometimes things that stem off of that. For instance, hunger now versus hunger then. Then I had to go and then find something to eat. Like, literally, I'm going to find something to eat meant I was going to find something to eat. Whether that be cooking it, whether that be, like, going to find something, hunt, gather something that you can eat. Whereas
chicken.
Now it's like catching it chicken. They're unripe mangoes. Now it's just eat, or it's Deliveroo.
Yeah.
And there's one aspect of things where there was built-in delayed gratification, which meant discipline, which meant patience, which meant resilience. Whereas now there is this instant gratification, which is, it makes people very impatient. They lack resilience, they break down in the slightest hurdle, and have no discipline. And so I think there's a danger that especially our parents made, I think, that comes from thinking that just because it's the same experiences, they were the same circumstances. They really aren't. And I think if we when we ignore that, we end up doing exactly what our parents, or some of our parents did. My parents still do. But yeah, I think that needs to be very carefully considered as well.
Cool. All right, I think that's a nice place to round up. AI, see you in the future. Are you guys going to be watching Coronation?
Nope.
So my daughter wants to watch it, and so I've told her, if you want to watch it, that's fine. Okay. So yeah, I may be floating in the background as well, as she's watching it. But she did say, "Yeah, I'm gonna watch it, but if I get bored, I'll just turn it off." It's like, yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. How about yourself?
Well, do I even have Sky?
Facts. YouTube. I'm sure they're gonna be streaming it.
It's not on BBC.
He hasn't got TV like that.
I'm only got Netflix and YouTube. I've got a TV, but I've only got Netflix and YouTube. When I saw
Netflix and YouTube, why?
Bro, we'll talk about that off the thing, bro.
You've got a web browser, right?
Yeah.
So you can watch it if you want to. I don't know why I'm making an argument for the thing that I'm never going to watch.
We'll chop up the thing off.
Sorry.
Anyway,
live.
my head is feeling woozy.
It's that shit though. It's that good food when your body got given good food, and now it's experiencing euphoria.
I need to have the evidence before Andrea comes home.
I mean, she's gonna go into the fridge. She's gonna see in the fridge that something's short.
She won't. All right, hookups.
Oh, hookups. Can I go first?
Yeah.
And can I be cheeky and give 2 hookups? One's a negative hookup, so it balances out.
Okay.
My negative hookup is: do not, under any circumstances, for any reason, for any given period of time, watch Once and Always Power Rangers movie. It's no. It's the reverse of art. It's a waste of life. Don't do it. The opposite is because I've had my life threatened by tonsillitis. I'm now on medication, and I've got an app that is very useful for tracking taking your medication. Okay. So it's called Medisafe. And basically, if you've got to take, so I've got to take antibiotics every 6 hours. You just set what dosage you've got to take, and it gives you nice reminders, and you can track and make sure you're taking it. If you take it at a wrong time or a different time, you can put that in, and then you can easily sort of stagger the rest of the day accordingly. So Medisafe is my hookup, and don't watch the new Power Rangers Once and Always. It's my negative hookup.
Moses?
I decided to change my hookup, so go for it.
Okay. My hookup is a song. Let me find it. I don't know how much Peter would approve, to be honest.
I don't. I mean, if you think that, then I don't approve.
Where's it been? Actually, no, I've changed my mind. I'm not hooked up. I don't want to get in trouble. Okay, let's be a bit more wholesome.
Wow.
Let's be a bit more wholesome. I will hook up another song, gospel song. It's called Fresh Wind. It's by Hillsong. It's by Hillsong.
Listen, Hillsong.
Oops. Yeah, Hillsong, Fresh Wind. It's a vibe. I'm gonna try and bring it to church. Well, I brought the chorus to church one time, but I need to get the verses in this time. Oh, speaking of which, we had a conference this past 2 days at work, and so had live band, everything. It was in the Royal Albert Hall, and then so we were singing Waymaker, and then who would be in the crown but Sinach? Is that how do you say her name?
Sinach, yeah.
Sinach. So she was in the audience.
She was in the audience.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so she went on stage and sang the song with them.
Come on now.
That was sick.
That's a flex, though. If you're going to sing my song, I'm going to come up there and sing it right. That's a flex.
Which means they got her to perform for free.
Yeah.
Well,
No, she was worshiping. She wasn't performing.
She paid to be there.
To perform.
She paid to perform.
When we come off this thing, man's got a couple comments on that one still. But yeah, my hookup is an album called Black Radio 3.
Robert Glasper,
Black Radio 3. That's my hookup. Yeah.
I still have a few songs from Black Radio that comes in my workout playlist.
Well,
I stand alone.
Isn't he the guy? Did he pass away?
No,
I don't think so.
he's super young. No, he's
So who am
super
I
young.
thinking of then?
But he's not dead, I don't think.
Okay, man, probably thinking about someone else then. I don't know who I'm thinking about. Anyway, no.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Yeah, only 45.
So who's the other guy? I have to find him because he's going to name,
Well,
Anyway,
dead done.
shout out Rude for the intro outro music. Calvin Turner on
on.
the amazing logo. Twitter at Furnace UK. Email at TBF Furnace. Instagram. No, I've lost it.
Yeah.
Let me start again.
That Benku is real.
Hey, is hitting him.
Twitter at Defenders UK, Instagram at TBS Furnace, email tbsfurnace@hotmail.com, soundcloud.com/the Blacksmith Furnace, no apostrophe, on all good podcast web, on all good pod, on all good podcast websites and apps, the Blacksmith Furnace with an apostrophe, and that's it. So this is the Blacksmith Furnace signing out. Blow.